And in my short time here, it seems to me it's the council and the business owners and the property owners along there and working together.
Leadership.
Agreed.
Congratulations. Nice.
I know. I'm surprised. We're just counting so I can make note. I got 21 because I counted those two.
Did you get your thing to?
Good. So 19. Okay.
We're ready to go? We ready, Christine?
Are you at the dice? Yes. Yes.
We're willing? Okay, we are going to call the meeting of the Livability Committee to order. And let's go ahead and start with introductions. Want to start? Stone? You guys can move up here. You're going to have to make sure that your mic is on.
I'm Leslie Terry, community member. Stacy Dewater from Star of Hope.
Drew Farmer, Coos Bay City Council.
Stephanie Kilmer.
Sarah Stevens, Coos Bay City Council.
Chris Chapinar, Coos Bay PD.
Nicole Rutherford, City Manager.
John Sweet, Coos County.
Christine Sylvester, Executive Coordinator, City of Coos Bay.
Did we want to do any introductions in the audience as well? Oh, I guess I could turn my mic on. Just name and if you represent anyone or just...
No, just here by myself, retired physician, Jim Martin.
Gwyneth Strins, Eastside Neighborhood Watch.
Calvin Strins, Chairman, Eastside Neighborhood Watch.
Jill Rasmussen, Executive Director, Egyptian Theater.
Mike Powder, civilian, Coos Bay.
Kim Powder, Coos Bay resident.
Melissa Cliver, Empire resident.
Dean Lundy, a bicycle path enthusiast.
Don Stroller, Coos Bay resident.
Tammy Pleasanton, Coos Bay resident.
Amy Linder, building official, fire marshal, City of Coos Bay.
Jim Burns, City of Coos Bay.
Jackie Matthews, a resident in Coos Bay. Shar Luther, community member. Angela Phillips, United Way of Southwestern Oregon.
Tim Eddingfield, Kintone consultant.
Laura Ursa, Gaia, she, her pronouns. I'm the director of Pride and a member of the Equity Coalition.
I'm Stephen Bishop, and I have a small construction company in Coos Bay. It's Pacific Northwest Seal Coating.
Brent Smith, Coos Bay.
All right, thank you everyone for being here today. We do have, I just want to kind of give you an update. We did have a few applications, quite a few applications that were filled out. Do we have the application here if anyone else was interested in joining this committee? Do we?
I did receive an application from Jill. I received one from Ryan. And
No, I mean applications for if people wanted to fill one out that
yes,
came
at the
today.
back table.
Okay, so we have applications on the back table. The council has not ratified the committee yet, so if you are still interested in being a part of this committee, the official committee, then I would encourage you to fill out an application and get that to Christine. You don't have to do it today. You can email it as well to the city manager's office. We will probably have this coming before the council to ratify those positions?
Yes, so we could either look at your next meeting, which, would be the first, so it'd be like the 2nd or the 16th. We could look at either of those meetings, and I guess then the next question, we have a number of applications if we want to set up interview times, which is pretty typical of what we do when we have committees that we're trying to fill. So we do have a number, so then that may mean we need to have a couple of sections for interview times, and that may push us a little bit further out. The 16th seems good. Yeah.
Okay. And then also, if you were on the homeless work group, and we kind of use that as the template to get people involved in this one, make sure that you also fill out an application just so that we have that. So. All right, I guess I did the committee formation discussion. Is there anything else that either of you wanted to add to that?
I mean, I just would encourage you to fill out a form. I think there's still some specific organization lenses and neighborhoods that we'd like to have represented. And so if you're interested and maybe you have additional questions, any of us are happy to talk with you about what that responsibility looks like, and just encourage you to fill it out.
We could at this time, if anyone has questions from the audience about the committee formation or anything like that, if you have a question, do you want them to come up to the microphone or just pass a mic? If you don't mind passing a mic, it probably is more comfortable from there.
Thank you.
Just give us your name again.
Hi, I'm Tim. Question, what is the Livability Committee and what does it entail? Because the flyer just had the name and time and nothing else.
Well, I think, it kind of was sparked from an aspect that we're all dealing with. We originally had a homeless work group that was dealing on issues around the crisis of homelessness. And then we also had concerns from the community regarding criminal activity, as well as litter, and all of those things kind of combined together. We thought, well, let's put this back together, maybe a little bit differently, where we have members of the community that are impacted. It doesn't all have to be negative, and it doesn't all have to focus around homelessness or crime. But I think those are two of the big topics that we're facing right now, so that's probably going to dominate some of the discussion. But I think there's some other things that impact livability, and that's why we kind of put that title on there. So, can you get access to health care? Can we be the leader in maybe helping to, get ahead of some of the issues that we're facing in our community, just being rural? You guys have anything to add?
I mean, I think it's also what members of the committee or audience want to talk about, ideas that you might have. Just like another, maybe a little bit more informal opportunity to talk with the city about things that you see as what could create a livable community. I know bikes are really important. That's part of creating a livable community. I know park spaces are part of creating a livable community. Traffic, I mean, really, livability is a pretty broad statement, right? And so what are the things that are important to the committee? What are the things that are important that the audience brings forward? And just like a really great place to be innovative and come up with some cool new ideas.
Thank you very much.
Development.
Some of it also is increasing. So I think as an example of pushing back on some regulations that came down from the state, one of the opportunities we had during the first work group was developing ordinances for warming centers, for temporary shelters, pallet homes, and where we found an area we needed to push back was we initially allowed for 4 pallet homes on a church property if the church wanted to do that. And we went to bump it up to 6, only to find out that in the 90s, the state of Oregon had restricted churches, saying they could only have 3 people sheltered at any given time. So that was a surprise to all of us, I think. And we worked with a couple different lobbyists to get a couple riders put on bills that were going through the legislature. And that restriction was overturned entirely to allow churches to serve people to the extent they felt appropriate within their beliefs.
Any of the other committee members? You're so far away over there.
I expected others to be here. For me, it's all that you guys have said. It's how can we identify the things that are hampering livability in our community, and then how do we work to make those better? So this is like the place where we get to come and have a solution. So we get to identify what the problems are and then create solutions out of that, and that's what's really exciting for me.
Great way to put it. Yeah.
Basically what you guys have all said. I think it's been really interesting in some of these meetings, because you get some different perspective and see how things are affecting people differently in different parts of the community. So, it's been good to talk these things out, I think.
Okay. Nicole?
I was just going to kind of maybe address the scope of this, because we're acknowledging that it's as big as we want to make it or small as we want to make it, and referencing that back to the homeless work group, which was, again, the same thing. We kind of built something up and walked with it for several years. From that, like, we started talking homeless, but we had things come out of that, like the vacant property registration program. So if a house is empty, they need to come and register, and yeah, that has touch points, but not so many. So it's really up to what we want to talk about here.
Are there any other questions? Oh, microphone's over there.
Angela, how often do you actually meet? I don't have the form in front of me, so I don't know the answer to that.
Once a month right now. And the consensus from the group last week was to keep it at this time at noon. But nothing's really set in stone right at this point. This is what we've worked with. We are open to other suggestions if that works better. Oh,
yeah, Mike Powder from Empire. I think this is a fantastic idea, the Livability Committee. The only thing I sort of get concerned about is it gets engulfed with 90% of the time will be on the Devereaux Center, on the homeless, and on these issues, which get beaten around so much that we lose track of what could be our goal. And to me, my goal of a livable city is a place where it's good for everybody of all ages and abilities to be able to get around and enjoy our city. The homelessness and the crime is a bad situation, but they're not going to go away. They're going to be again, and it gets beaten around and people get passionate on it. And also, this is an election year, so we're going to get swallowed up with these guys and those guys beating each other up all the time too. So to me, I just like to find something that concentrates on making this a more livable type city where you can feel free to walk anywhere you want to go. You can feel at any time of day and night, and try to shoot for some of those goals where kids can ride their bikes on the streets, and we all generally feel safe. That's what I want to shoot for. So it's a long distance away at the moment, but I think we can slowly get there. But my big concern, like I say, is just getting totally out of focus and just thinking about the Devereaux and the homeless, which has been beaten up so many times. Thank you.
Great comment. I also don't want to talk about the Devereaux anymore. I think there was someone else had their hand up.
As you've all heard me say, I think this is like a fairy tale city. It's just like a dream. Before I get into what I think is important for city planning and stuff, I'd like to all give a kind thought to Baltimore. They woke up the other morning in a nightmare. Their city's going to be impacted for years. The traffic is going to be a mess. We are so lucky here. We've got that beautiful bridge in the North Bend. They lost one man there working for a friend of mine, drowned in a truck on the North Bend Bridge. But the bridge is beautiful. The city is just absolutely charming. And we're so lucky to live here, in my view. When my crew's kind of a motley crew. We are not engineers, we're not civil planners. But when we think of livability, it's what Councilor Drew Farmer said. It's the 15-minute city. It's the people who live above the retail. It's being able to walk around the city. Anything you want to do, trip out. Whatever you want to do, you can do it in 15 minutes walking. We've put a lot of money and energy in a dream of an aquatic park along the waterfront. We're trying to pick up the ball on the connect, the one-on-one corridor for bicycles and people to walk and stroll and stuff like that. My personal issue is there's no way to cross the street without getting killed from Newmark all the way down to the new plaza. So all
Dean,
these,
can I make sure that you speak into the microphone? 'Cause
there are so many opportunities here for economic development. You've got scuba diving and sailing and surfing and kayaking and fishing. I mean, it's all here. Whatever you want to do, kite flying, I mean, it's all here. What I'd like to see is some decent crosswalks, some decent bike paths. The sovereign nation down the street, I haven't talked to them, but they're a whole nother country. But they don't allow bikes in there. They don't have a bike rack. If you leave a bike there, they'll impound it. We're working as hard as we can. What I'd like to ask you guys is who can we go to with your city planners and your engineers to drop kick the bike path signage and stuff over to Park and Rec? They've got no history with this type of work. They don't have any trucks and no money. So my thing is, there's gazillions of money for outdoor youth activities. To me, this is as serious as a heart attack. You want to have a heart attack, you sit on the couch and eat ho-hos. But what we want to do is get people outdoors, walking around this fabulous city, or riding a bike. We give bikes. So that's my coffee cup idea.
And I do believe that we have an isolated committee inside of our Parks Commission that is kind of focusing on that at the city level.
So there are contacts we have to go. I have one more thing. Like in the fire department, when we had somebody run over a fire hydrant, we got out a map to figure out where the closest shutoff was. Is there somebody around here that has a good map that started with this project? They had this project going.
Dean, you don't have the microphone, so no one online can hear you. So it's okay. I think probably what you need to do is connect with Nicole.
Yeah, you can certainly connect with me, and then it's likely it's going to walk through the Parks Commission. I mean, that's what they've been tasked with, and like some of us, we don't know today, but the goal is we know tomorrow. So, yeah.
I had a follow-up
Mayor
question.
has brought that up before too, so.
Great.
I had a follow-up question about what's the difference between being on the committee and being like someone who comes to these monthly meetings? Like, what's the role of the committee in terms of like creating an agenda or the focus versus being over here?
Well, generally, this committee, because of the length of time, we won't have public comments. We'll have you fill out a comment form, and the committee will take that up as discussion. That will allow us to bring in experts to maybe talk about those. So, for example, we're going to talk about rural health care today, and the challenges that we have with that. It's kind of a living thing, though. I mean, some of us are facing issues with that. Probably a lot of folks are. And what can we do to, I'm just using this as an example, to maybe put together a team or a task force that can maybe be the leader in dealing with some of the issues that folks are facing on the South Coast. Being in the audience, you're more listening, and then maybe that spurs some ideas, and those we ask you to write down on the comment form, just because there's not a whole lot of time. we're very loose in this right now because we're in the process of seeing what's going to work. And please, to the other counselors here, if you have something else to add, make sure you do.
No, I think we should move into our discussion topics. Yeah.
All right, so our first item on the discussion topics is Measure 110, and there is an update since the last time. Are you taking that, Chris?
Yeah, I can
Chief?
take that. So most of you guys probably are familiar with ballot measure 110 that went into effect a few years ago. What it did is it decriminalized drug possession, and it kind of just changed the way that law enforcement dealt with folks that were found to be in possession of drugs. So without getting real deep into that, there has been some change in that House bill, and it's under House Bill 4002, I believe, and that has now worked its way through the Senate and the House and was actually signed by the governor now. So there's some revisions. It will take possession of drugs back into, they're going to create a new classification in the crime, and it's going to be a U misdemeanor, which is considered an unclassified misdemeanor, which can float either up to a C felony or a B misdemeanor or an A misdemeanor, depending on the set of circumstances that surround that drug possession. So that will take an effect. I've been looking, and the nearest that I can see, we have not gotten any type of direct email or a direct notification indicating when exactly it'll take effect, but I believe it's September 1st. From what I've recently read, this year, yes. And so what that means is it'll mean for law enforcement, if we do come into contact with someone that is in possession of a controlled substance, we will treat it like a crime like we did prior to ballot measure 110. The difference now, though, is there's still some additional types of programs, treatment facilities. There's some funding attached to that bill that will allow either the courts to require someone to get treatment. There's going to be a little bit of compulsion in that area to require people to get treatment and seek help, and in lieu of some type of criminal consequence. So really for us, for law enforcement, we'll be able to be kind of back to business as usual prior to the 110. But I think it's going to be, what we're hoping it's going to be better than where it was before, because there also is still some avenues now for folks that have dependency issues, and there's going to be some treatment help. Yeah.
Chris, what do you see happening though relative to your renewed ability to arrest and possibly incarcerate when we don't have enough staffing at the jail and we are sorely lacking in prosecutors to move these cases through the courts? It just seems like we're doing it backwards again.
Yeah, certainly.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I think, and I'll kind of paraphrase what your question was, and hopefully I get it correct. I think you're asking, well, how are we going to deal with the increased maybe folks that are incarcerated for possession of drugs when our jails are very limited right now, limited capacity in staffing and limited capacity overall. And then also our DA's office. Is that correct? Is that fair to say that was your question? Yeah, I mean, that's difficult, obviously. I believe there will be an increase in need for our jail and that capacity to be opened up and those resources be available. Also, I believe there will be an increase on the demands put on the DA's office, and I'm not advocating one way or another. Everybody is going to be able to vote on the levy and decide for their own selves which way they want to vote on that. But that is why, partial reason why they have the levy is because we believe that there's going to be a need for that and to open that capacity. The only thing I will say, though, regardless, it still is going to be a crime. It still will be entered into the system. Whether they are booked and released, they'll still have the ability to seek either treatment in lieu of prosecution, and or if not, if there's other extenuating circumstances, they'll still will be responsible for that crime.
And so that's the biggest difference, right? Like, today, it's $100 fine, right? After September 1, it's seek treatment or go to jail, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, John, I don't know, do you want to talk about how important that is for the county?
You bet I do. Yeah. I'm not as nice as Chris. I'm going to advocate for the public safety levy. And it's not just a jail. The funds, we'll vote on it in May, are restricted to 2 departments within the county. Both departments are part of our public safety system, but the choke points we find are in the district attorney's office, where we do not have enough deputy DAs to handle the level of criminal activity that we're finding in this county. The same is true of the jail. I'm not saying that jail is the only place to treat people that are having problems, but for a lot of them it is, and for some of those who need other help, it can also be a kind of the stick to get people away from their habits and into treatment. Without sufficient prosecution capacity, I cannot imagine, number one, how frustrating it must be to be a city policeman, a state policeman, or a county deputy. You're out there, you're doing your best to deal with people who choose to not obey the norms of society. You take them to Coquille, and they beat you home because they got less paperwork to do before they're released to come back home than the arresting officer has. And I absolutely agree that treatment is an important, very, very important part of taking care of people who have committed crimes. I have a son. He was not a criminal, but he had alcohol problems. And it was treatment that got him through that. And so we have to have that element. And we do have it in our parole and probation department called Community Corrections. They have a wonderful program for getting people back on the proper path. But they don't even get to that part if they're arrested and taken to Coquille and charged with a crime. If we don't have enough prosecution capacity to get them before the court, if we don't turn them loose because all they've committed is a property crime and haven't raped someone or killed someone or abused someone, they go free. And in doing that, they forego the opportunity that our parole and probation department has to provide them with counseling. So it's really important. I don't want to get into county finances. I'll just tell you that no one wants to pay more taxes. But providing an adequate public safety system is the responsibility of government. And when you look at our system, the cities, the county, and the state all participate in patrol and arrest. But it's only the city, it's only the county here that basically provides prosecution. It's only the county that provides the court system. It's only the county that provides incarceration. It's only the county that provides parole and probation, and only the county that provides juvenile justice. So if any part of that system, and we control 5 parts of the 6 at the county, if that is broken, then the whole system is broken. And people can argue all they want. We simply, as a county, do not have enough money to provide those parts of the systems for which we are solely responsible. Our county tax rate, I'm not talking about the taxes for the schools and the hospitals and the ports and the airport and everything else we do, fire departments, all that. The money that goes to fund your county operation, your tax rate, is less than 1/3 of the average county tax rate in the state. We just don't have the financial capacity to provide the service. You say, well, you got a road department. Why don't you change your priorities? A good public safety system is more important than a pothole. Well, it depends on where you live. If you live on the other side of the pothole, you probably disagree with that. And I agree with you. But the money we get for most of the things the county does is designated funding. And the example I'm using is the roads. That is funded by gas tax money. It's collected by the state. They share part of what they get with the counties and with the cities. We can't, by law, divert that money away from road repair to other things, to public safety. So I could go on and on and on, but to me, this is the most important thing that's come before the county in the 11 years that I've served as commissioner. We just have to have it. I don't want to get into negatives, I want to be positive, but it's not a pleasant picture if we don't have it.
Commissioner Sweet, just for clarification, when you talk about the DA's office, does the money that could potentially come from the levy help them be more competitive in attracting attorneys and retaining them?
We've already taken money a year ago out of reserves, which means it's one-time money. We don't have deep reserves, so we kind of used them up. And we've made ourselves competitive in both in attracting deputies and attracting assistant DAs. And it's working. People say you can't get it. And that's been our experience. But we have really a strong leadership in both the DA's office and the sheriff's office. And in the sheriff, I think we've been able to hire close to 24 new people to replace people who have been retiring. And we had a lot of that. And so that was a challenge. We didn't know and we were losing people. No, we've been able to hire 24 people. The district attorney has been able to hire 3 new people. They're not all here yet. They're not all trained yet. But so we've been successful in getting, but if we're going to keep them, we've got to have this money. And we need to add even more jail capacity to what we have. Right now, although we have funding for 98 beds, we only have the personnel for 49. We have them hired. They'll be trained next month, we hope, which is right around the corner, and we'll have. But we still need another 49 beds on top of that, just to keep up with the amount of grant. There have to be deterrents. Parole and probation. It's a good program. People, instead of going to prison, you stay home, you can, support your family, go in on Saturdays and do your time. Each Saturday we have a work party. That's part of the punishment, I guess. Last Saturday, I think we had 7 people scheduled, 2 showed up. The other 5 knew there were no consequences. The jail is the consequence for not coming in and doing what you're told to do in parole and probation. No one knows better than the criminally inclined that we don't have enough jail space or enough prosecution. So I'm sorry, I'm taking way too much, but this is really, really important. People can find all kinds of reasons to not support it, but if we really are interested in livability, we need to live, and we don't have to arrest everyone that's criminally inclined. As long as they know there's a deterrent, they're going to be less inclined to misbehave. But how can we talk about livability if we can't talk about being able to walk down the street safely or not worry about your home being broken into? Or, I don't know how many lawnmowers and chainsaws and things like that I've donated to the drug trade for people breaking in to my storage shed and getting that stuff. And if I'm gone, there's no one there to stop them, and I can't. Anyway, we shouldn't have to worry about that stuff, but we do. And we'll always be worried, but we can make a big difference if we have a properly funded public safety system.
All right, thank you. Sarah,
Now, thank you.
Drew? Anybody else?
No questions on that one.
Okay. All right. We just have a couple minutes more on this topic. Go ahead.
Quick statement, Commissioner Sweet. I can't agree with you more about the importance of getting the funding for these critical items to making this a more livable city. My concern is that without the information being provided to the voters who will decide this in great enough detail, that we might find ourselves with another Measure 110, where I think it was ignorance, lack of maybe effort on the part of the voters to get engaged and find out what Measure 110 was going to mean. And I don't want to see that happen with this safety levy. And I'm just wondering, is there going to be a concerted effort to really push the issue, explain the dynamics of it, and get this thing pushed through to where if let's pay our fair due.
The attorney and I have been spending average of 2 nights a week meeting with every group that'll have us and consuming a disorderly amount of time at meetings like this. We're raising funds so we can have a TV campaign, we can have radio, we can have signs,
There's
whatever we can
a
do.
video series that's going to be released shortly that will, really break it down in really easy to understand ways that John and the sheriff and some really motivated community members are putting together. And so I think starting next week, you're going to see a lot more information in bite-sized pieces in a lot of different ways.
But we can talk all we want, we can put out all the information we want, but the very, very best publicity for this will come from folks like you.
Yeah, word of mouth, yeah.
And people go, he just wants more money. No, I don't want more money. I want us, I want more for the county, not for myself. I just want us to have a system that works. This is where I lived all my life, and what we've got now is not good. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything
Thanks for
else
the
to
time.
add? All right, then we are going to move on to the next discussion topic. And we put on there rural health care. And some folks over the years have experienced difficulty in finding health care, and so we're just kind of opening the discussion. There are some folks in the healthcare industry. Is this something that we want to maybe do a little more formal, work with maybe a task force? What are your thoughts as a committee on this?
I think that it is incredibly important for a livable city to have healthcare available. I know for myself, I have to see a neurologist. I now have to go to OHSU to do that in Portland. I think that the city would benefit greatly, and people would. I think that we may have growth in population with the economic development that's been happening, and then good healthcare to support that as well. I think that we have a lot of good assets that we can show healthcare providers, because I know that that's very important in gaining new healthcare providers. I think it's something really important for us to look at.
So you think maybe more discussion on this then? Yeah. How does the rest of the committee feel?
I would encourage it as well. I also have to go to neurologist, and it's at the VA in Portland, so it's attached to OHSU. So it's a bit of a drive for those. And I think at a minimum, we could get a presentation from the hospital. I was just getting updated the other day by them on the state of the state hospital, how they've got about 700 beds at the state hospital for mental health, and they determined they are short 3,000. Hence why they only take people that have committed person-to-person crimes right now. So a presentation from the hospital would be great. Their annual reports are also the best ones out of the others. But if we heard from the CCO, maybe they're higher up in the data chain. And I know going to the VA, I don't think I've had a permanent provider in, well, I got back in 2012, so probably since 2012. So
I was going to say, I've seen the car driving around that has something they taped in their window without a VA doctor for 6 months now or something.
I actually get really good service from them, but I have the luxury of being able to travel to them.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't, they'd be in a really bad situation.
I know it kind of falls outside of the scope of what the city could provide, but maybe it's a topic for discussion. We could bring some groups together.
I think that healthcare in America is broken, and I'm not sure a committee is going to fix it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we have a lot of bigger issues than what we can fix here in Coos Bay. But what I can say is we're already intersecting with this in our efforts to address the housing, connecting with the hospital to come together on a project where we can kind of help on their land support some development. So it makes kind of good sense that we have this conversation as well with them, because there is some intersect already.
I would say the city has directly been involved in some of these efforts before, but it was through development. So when we funded the initial project of the Buggy Bank building, that was so we could get more OHSU students down here. So if by some intersection we could find ways to provide more housing developments or talk to these entities about how we can get more collaborative works, what do they need that we can do, because I don't know what they need until they tell me. Getting them in the room would be useful. And then also from the crime and drug perspective, just because I've talked with the hospital about it before, I think for data purposes it's important to know particularly the scale of generational drug use in our community. A report they put out 2 years ago noted that our community doesn't see the progression of entry-level drugs to hard drugs that most communities see. Overwhelmingly, our community sees just going from 0 to meth or 0 to heroin. And having gone to high school at North Bend, I saw it with people I went to school with. There was no intermediate. So it's an important thing for us to hear about, and I think for the community to hear about in these forums. So.
Yeah, I think if we can find a laser focus and intersection around the ecosystem of housing, but to just like broadly think that a committee is going to solve our
Yeah, it's not
like
gonna solve
America's
healthcare.
healthcare crisis is just not
Well, I
realistic.
don't think that. I think we face in rural Oregon, we face a difficulty in keeping and retaining. That doesn't necessarily, I mean, there are, those are livability issues when we can't retain.
The ecosystem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think
I
that's
agree.
more
That's
of what
what
we're
we-
talking about. John?
I promise I'll be briefer. I was once on the board of the Ford Family Foundation, and it's a good-sized foundation, and we looked at problems like this. They're dedicated to rural things, and I think one of the things we discovered, and Dr. Martin might disagree or agree with this, I don't know, is that it costs a fortune to get through medical school. And more, once you're there, you realize how much money you borrowed to get through it. You're inclined to become a specialist. And so we're not getting the family practitioners that we once got. Because the specialists, they don't treat everyday stuff. And so they need a big population base. And they don't find it in rural communities. So it's become harder and harder. We're so fortunate to have all the services we have here for a community our size and as remote as we are. I think it's fantastic. But it's going to be continuing to be a problem having the care providers. So I think there's going to be a bigger push for having healthy living styles. Because you're going to have a hard time finding a cure or getting access to a cure for all the things that can happen to you if you don't have a healthy living style. And I think that's where the county and the cities come in large part to make sure we have walking paths, bike trails, swimming pools, all the facilities that you need to be able to go out in all kinds of weather and do healthy things. And so I think there's a big role for all of our local governments in providing that.
Which is why it's so important to elect leaders that promote equitable access and aren't creating roadblocks for our public health agency.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, to kind of bring this to this topic or this discussion around, maybe we can just get a presentation by the hospital.
Yeah, I can certainly reach out to Mr. Moore and share what we're interested in, and then let him kind of see who's best maybe to come and chat with us.
Okay, and also Lance from the Waterfall Clinic was interested, so it might be good to reach out to him as well.
I'm also, I don't want to put you on the spot, Laura, but I know that United Way recently received a pretty sizable grant. I'm curious if your opinion on how we can support you in that.
It'd be worthwhile reaching out to Jaden at the Equity Coalition. I don't want to interrupt y'all, but I think they could be an interesting partner with the community needs assessment that they've also done across Coos and Curry County.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and already have connected with Jaden with interest to come and present to council about some of their work. So it's in progress. Of course, that's not for this body, but we can just expand that. And
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next topic we have for discussion is litter. And this came up from the audience last meeting.
I loved the person that talked about adopt a block. I think that is something, thank you, that I wasn't here in person last time, so I didn't get to visually see who it was talking, but I think that's such an excellent idea and so empowering for the community to, you know, what we talked about before, like do something, see something, do something, say something, but like that extends beyond crime, you know, so I really loved your idea to promote that more. Yeah.
Can we talk more about that? Because I didn't hear that either.
Yeah, she's our expert.
Yeah, microphones all over.
There it is, right there.
Surrounded.
We're covered.
Hi, my name's Jackie. Yeah, and that was a good response. I had people approach me in the community saying they've signed up for Adopt One Block. But I wanted to give kudos to the city too, because I reached out to the Portland is where their main office is, because they have partnered with Got Junk in Portland, big trucks that will come in and swoop up big messes. And somebody brought to my attention behind the alleyway behind the Egyptian theater that has just collected tons of stuff. And so I reached out to the Portland group and asked them, how did you establish those relationships? And do you know of any in the Coos Bay area? And he got back and said he didn't know about Coos Bay, and actually Got Junk had contacted them saying that they would do that service with a great fee for them, that took care of it. But he also said he found what we talked about was having the community concern on the city council website, that the people, you can send pictures or concerns, and I had mentioned a good story, where somebody cut down the hedge so somebody in a wheelchair could get through. And so this guy from Portland sent me our link for the concern. So people can find it, which is a good news, because he didn't know the area, but he was able to. So that is a good avenue, and for people to see something, say something, and move it on. But yeah, I had people that live in the different neighborhoods. My husband traps cats and gets them fixed and all, and people have been telling him they joined Adopt One Block, so people are doing it.
Jackie, in your opinion, how can the city help promote Adopt a Block, and how can people sign up?
I mean, maybe we could put it in like the Friday emails and just have their contact information, because they have a website and they provide you any supplies you need, and they have a Facebook page so people are telling about kids programs that are doing it and such.
I love that we've identified that litter's a problem, and then you have this great solution. So thank you, because I think that's the other part that we really want to see in this committee is, as someone noted, like to be really solution focused. So thanks.
Right, yeah, sure.
So we have a connection, and we can do some more research and maybe look at promoting that.
Yeah, I mean, initially, right off the bat, probably not this Friday update because we're missing the timeline, but definitely can get it in next, and then work with our media team to even get some of this on our website. Okay.
Maybe there's like some friendly competition we can do, Yeah.
I do believe that the May 4th is the time that they're doing the cleanup on 101 from North Bend to Coos Bay.
Yeah, that's a chamber event. So the Bay Area Brigade, if any of you, and I think they're moving back to their old model where the competition is threefold with Marshfield, North Bend, and the community college. So you can pick a team. It starts in North Bend, ends in Coos Bay. There'll be hot dogs, I'm not sure, but yeah. So May 4th, for anybody who's a Star Wars fan, that has significance.
Jim, your group also does a lot of great work around this.
We're doing a few things. We're in North Bend this month, so OBAB, Oregon Bay Area Beautification. This project is North Bend Ferry Park, second Saturday of this month, 1 to 3. And then you can go online, just type in Oregon Bay Area Beautification or Facebook, and there's a schedule of events. So it's the second Saturday every month. It's a 2-hour time commitment, and we get quite a bit done. So.
And I saw that if you're unable to attend, you accept donations. Nice.
The easiest way to find them is on Facebook? Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. Do they have a website?
Yes.
Okay.
We usually do, they usually share their information with us, so that is in the Friday update regularly, but also maybe something we add to our website.
I think the master schedule for the year was in the last Friday update. So.
So the idea of getting information out there kind of brought up just now. It would be a new item on here. Different places I've lived have, around the parks and around public areas, always kept billboards with some information about what's going on. Just simple wood with the community could post stuff to it to know what's going on in their communities nearby, usually. Imagine that's something we could look at as well, something we could put in the parks, just a board people can tack things to, so that they can maybe distribute the street cleanups or awareness of that thing. Or I just didn't notice that it already exists, that's an option.
It is a management issue, and you can create litter.
You can.
Well, the other concern that I would have,
What people post.
well, no, just unfortunately, I'm not sure how many people might know, but a couple years ago, the library got a grant, and they did story walk boards in Mingus, which were intended for like grade school age children to kind of have a walk through nature, reading, learning. Those made it maybe 2 weeks before they were vandalized and had to come out. So that's would be my concern, is that we'd have great hopes.
Yeah, I think that's why usually where I've seen it, they didn't do anything more complicated than some 2x4s with something you could stick tags to.
Yeah, I don't think these were extravagant by any means, but
Yeah.
they still were,
That'll happen.
destroyed.
Yeah, it might be better just to keep it to our electronic distribution.
And we do
I
have
know there
a
are some
board.
community.
We do have a board here. The library has a board, so usually we try to use those as spaces, but it does require somebody go to those spaces. I understand that.
Yeah.
Angela, I saw your hand up.
I'm not sure if this actually applies.
So United Way of Southwestern Oregon is having their Day of Caring coming up in, it's May 18th and June 8th. May 18th is Curry County, June 8th is Coos. And it's a place where you can volunteer, and it's not exactly litter, but it is helping people clean up their yards that don't have the ability to clean up their yards anymore for different reasons. So that's something that once a year happens that people can volunteer for.
And that's an event that Jen usually shares. We get in the newsletter. Had pretty good turnout last year. I don't know if comparably, but
Yeah, really fun event, yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
We share in the county.
Is your mic on?
Oh, sorry. The county shares in these problems, but a lot of what we see on way, way too many of our county roads and our county forest is not litter. It's garbage. I mean, it's not going out and picking up someone's McDonald's coffee cup. It's going out and picking up a pickup load of vile garbage. And no one knows better about this than your son, who works for he's one of our county foresters. I don't think a program like this is going to help that. We need something that's, and I know from personal experience, because I rifle through the garbage when I find it. And you pick up addresses, and you know there's quite a few from within Coos Bay and Bandon, and even that North Bend, surprisingly. So it isn't just someone that lives out in the country that's dumping their garbage. I don't know what to do about it. I have some ideas, but yes. I don't think it's quite that serious, but there are places. I had my wife's sister is married to an Italian man, and they visit here regularly, and he is amazed at the amount of trash we have in Oregon, just blown away. He said, how can you How can you do that to this beautiful land? And you got so much of it. You don't know how lucky you are. Why are people trashing it? I said, what do you do about it there? What they do about it there, and in a lot of places, is that just like you pay for your utilities, just like you pay to get rid of your sewage, you also pay, are obligated to pay, it is not optional, to get rid of your garbage. It's kind of, and I see you shaking your head, and I don't blame you. But I see, I don't know what, it's something like that we have to do. I don't know if that's the solution, but unless we want the friggin' place to be trashed, we got to figure out something.
So we are running up on the 1 o'clock hour. Jim, go ahead and make your comment, and then I think we need to make sure this is on the number 1 discussion.
Okay. There has to be a better way to control household garbage. 30% of what we picked up this summer was household garbage. And it was, and we did keep some envelopes and go through it and those sorts of things. What communities model that would be an equitable way to have garbage service for everyone, I'm not sure. I looked at a couple of things. The other issue is there's no penalty for dumping because there's no corrections. So if garbage is something that bugs you, keep in mind that a habitual offender for that will never see jail time. There is no penalty. And I'll give you some deep background. I was born and raised in Oregon. And I grew up in Lane County. I grew up in Lane County when they were unable to staff their jail. The city of Springfield built their own jail because the county couldn't hold their offenders. So if you go downtown in Springfield, there's a half of a block that is the city of Springfield's jail. They said the heck with the county. Getting that corrections levy done is probably the number 1 biggest change that we can make in this community. It will affect substance abuse. It will cut down on litter. It will get rid of a lot of our petty crime. It is huge. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay, so I know that there may be some topics, we had some new people here today that we haven't discussed. I would encourage you to fill out one of those comment pages, and also, again, an application if you would like to be on this committee. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting?
I don't think so. I think we just would want to share next date, just so we have an idea, which I believe is going to be April 25th.
April 25th at noon. And this, again, applications are important. The council will be doing interviews, and then looks like it will go before the council to ratify this committee at our 2nd meeting in April. So I know we are still looking for a business. That person does not have to reside in Coos Bay, but have a business in Coos Bay. We're looking for a student from the high school. So if you know of anybody that might be interested, this is a great way for them to, something great they could put on their resume. So, anything else from the committee? Any good of the order? Then I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you.
Christine, I am who I turn these into. So there's one application and then one. Thank you. Thank you. You're wonderful.